Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. Today is a little different because Tracy was unable to make today's recording, and so we have Kristie interviewing our guests, Bob Wallace, Michael Kearney, and David Johnson. And today is all about the speeches that Bob has given over the years, titled One Nation Under God. He has been giving this speech since 1979, and he's also given it at 4 national conventions, 2 of which were Exchange Club conventions. And many of you have met Bob. He's been a member of Exchange Club for over 65 years. So today he talks all about how the speeches came to be, what they mean, and how they've changed over the years. So hope you enjoy this one, and we'll see you again next week.
Welcome to this episode of Talk Exchange. My name is Kristie Lindahl, and I'm the Director of Communications. Things are going to sound a little bit different today. I'm missing my partner, Tracy, but I assure you we have a great guest, 3 great guests actually, and a wonderful story to share. I'm going to start out by introducing Bob Wallace, and he is being accompanied by David Johnson, our past national president, and Michael Kearney. Did I say that correctly?
That's close enough.
Close enough. Okay. My apologies. So, Bob, David wrote into us and suggested that we might want to have you on the podcast for a One Nation Under God speech that you often give. And our convention attendees had the opportunity to hear you in Greenville just a few years ago. And David let us know that you had delivered your last speech. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about, what the speech is, what it means to you, what it means for your legacy, and I'm going to let you take it from there.
All right. Well, back in 1979, a member of the Charleston Exchange Club, L. Rotten, who's still very active and he's 92 years old, he asked me if I would do a One Nation Under God program. Now, prior to that, we had wonderful programs every year. The Thursday before Thanksgiving, and usually there was a minister and sometimes a choir, and it was all non-denominational, but it was all religious. So when he asked me to do it, I said, "Ella, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a preacher. I don't have any idea what kind of program I could do." He said, well, he'd heard me speak somewhere, and he thought I could do it very well. But he was so persistent, I decided I'd do some research. I like history, and I put together a historical program, One Nation Under God, with a lot of different factual things throughout the history of America. And I brought in some religion. Started off with the 23rd Psalm, so it was well received, and so it got where they would want me to do it periodically, and I would resist because people had already heard it and heard the punchlines and didn't feel like I wanted to just keep doing the same thing over and over. But anyway, one time I did it, and there was a member from the Rotary Club there, and he recorded me, and he called me and asked me if I would come to his Rotary Club, and then the speech kind of took on a life of its own. I went to every Rotary Club in Charleston County and 2 in Greenwood, South Carolina. It just passed me around like a bottle of rum in a cold morning in a duck stand. But anyway, through the years, I would change different things and bring in current events like 9/11. And I had a sort of self-imposed rule if I ever failed to get a standing ovation, I would know it was time to quit. Well, everywhere I went, I did get a standing ovation, including L. Rotten's church, Pinewood Elementary School in Somerville, my church, and some other educational locations. I gave this talk when the president from Folly Beach, Miss Miller, was the national president. She came to our club and she heard me, and she apparently called the national office that day and then called me later that day and invited me to come to Detroit, Michigan, to the national convention. And I went, my wife and I, and we actually had a wonderful time. And I will say I've never gotten a reception for that speech like that one in Detroit. When I finished, people came all up on the stage to see me. When I went to lunch, people would come over, total strangers, to speak to me. They even spoke to me in the elevator, and no one ever talks in the elevator. But anyway, I was well received. I mentioned to David that I feel very honored that in my lifetime I've been invited to speak to 4 national conventions. 2 of them were Exchange Club, and another one was the other 2 were both legal. I'm a retired lawyer. The American College of Trial Lawyers in San Francisco in 2013, and then the National Convention of Legal Assistants and Paralegals, which was held in Charleston. I've forgotten the date. So I've had a wonderful life and a successful legal career. I've enjoyed telling this story. As I say, I've changed it from time to time. I think altogether, and I tried to keep a record of the various places that I spoke, but I think starting in 1979 and up until, I guess, this year, I think I've either done it 39 or 40 times, and I may have missed 1 or 2. So it's something I've enjoyed doing.
Well, thank you. Michael, what do you think it is about this speech and the way it's written that is so compelling to the audience?
Well, Bob has a great delivery. And if you listen to the words that he put together, they go beyond time. They go beyond history. But the way that he has laid out the whole speech, the segments, one right after the other, going through history. And again, the way that he delivers it, he takes his time. He looks at the crowd. The events that he's talking about, everybody knows, everybody has heard of, but he puts such a different perspective on it that it really resonates with young and old, everyone. So what happened in 1979 when he first did it, and what happened in 2025 when he did it again, all those events are still relevant, and they still play a large part in the history of this country. And it means a lot to the people who have seen, not all of them, but most of those events happen over their lifetimes. But the delivery that he does is just absolutely phenomenal. I tell people that he was one of the greatest orators of our time.
Having heard him, I would agree. Yes. And David, what do you think? The Exchange Club of Charleston is a club that pretty much every Exchange Club member is familiar with, just due to size. And if you've been to a convention, you know the activity that you create. I'm just wondering, what does Bob's speech mean for the legacy of your club?
Well, that's a very good question. And first of all, my favorite words that Bob says is he's a retired lawyer, because if I ever had to go in the courtroom with him, I'd just go ahead and walk out of there. But obviously, the Exchange Club of Charleston is known for many, many things. We're the largest club in the country. We put on a little thing called the Coastal Carolina Fair, which enabled us to give away almost $1 million last year to charities. But Bob is our treasurer, and that's why I was so glad that he agreed to do this, because we wanted to share him with everybody in the country. Because when Michael says he's one of the best orators ever, he really is. He's incredible. How he gets up there and talks for 30 minutes without a note, I'll never understand it. It's not human.
I agree. It is fabulous to hear. Hopefully, we'll be able to get it on some sort of recording that we can share with our audience. That would be wonderful. Bob, how long did it take you to actually write your first draft?
The biggest thing, I was trying to pick different things that would appeal to the audience, primarily Exchange Club at that time, events that would be of interest. Some of them struck such a chord that I kept them. Others I would discard through the years. And of course, as I added new events, I had to take out some because I didn't want it to get too long. But I'll give you one story to kind of illustrate that, not me, but the strength of the stories that I told. My lady friend, Kathy Powell, drove me to Greenville for the National Convention. And I told her I was going to kind of go over some of my notes and some of the things I was going to say, and I wanted to time it because I tried to keep it less than 30 minutes. And as I was going over it, she finally interrupted me and said, "You have to stop." Said, I'm crying, and the mascara's all running down my face.
That is a real problem.
Les Lodge, the next day, because I gave the speech in Greenville, and sitting at the table with some of my family and right in front of me, she cried again. How can this be? You already heard it. And the last time that I did it at the Exchange Club, we have a retired dentist there, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, "Bob, you made me cry." So I think that some of the events are so important that the emotions continue long after the event is over.
Bob makes my mascara cry every time I hear him speak.
So, I just want to ask, Bob, being so fundamental to your club, such a solid member, and I just want to know what Exchange has been to your life that you didn't expect. Obviously, it brought you to the stage where you could write this speech and be able to deliver it over and over again. But what else has it brought to your life?
Well, as a young lawyer, fresh out of law school, and in those days, lawyers could not advertise. It was not allowed by the Bar Association, and I never did advertise. But I thought that joining a service club would be one way to get my name out there and get to meet prospective clients. So I joined the Exchange Club, and I think this April will be 65 years ago.
Wow.
And I told David earlier today, in those 65 years, I got one client from the Exchange Club. I think the DUI which I happened to win. So I thought that would help me, but it didn't. So as far as developing business contacts, it didn't work. But I became president. I'm now the uh, oldest in seniority, past president, and that was a wonderful experience. Um, because of being past president, I've also served on the board of directors for the fair at least twice, and I've we have a unique organization, our circle of past presidents, and I've certainly enjoyed presiding over that as simply the senior member I get to preside. So it's been a wonderful experience with that, and of course working at the fair. I think back when I was president of the club and the TV kind of picked me to do some things at the fair for advertising, and my children were young. I have 6 children, and we just had a wonderful time at the fair, and they got to see themselves on television. And so all of those things have just made the Exchange Club a big part of our lives. So I have no regrets that the time that I've spent there. I got many experiences and many relationships in return.
Excellent. And Bob, you were led to, this particular point in your life because you were called to lead. You were called to write this speech and deliver it to people. And we know that David and Michael have both made similar impressions in their communities and their circle of friends and their networks. I just want to ask each one of you, what is your advice for someone who is asked to come forward and lead, like you were, Bob, and maybe a little bit hesitant? How do you harness your potential and move forward with that?
I haven't given any thought at all to that, so it's hard for me to answer.
Caught you off guard, huh?
Why don't we pass it to one of the others and let them explain? Maybe I can pick up on it.
I like that. All right, Michael, what do you have to say?
So, one of the things that we do is we ask, prospective members what they hope to get out of the membership. What do they expect to get out of being a member of the Exchange Club of Charleston? One of the things that I always tell them is you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Mm-hmm. And so we've got a number of committees and different things that people can be a part of. And even if you can't attend weekly meetings, you can still be a large part of the club itself by being involved in some of the other committees that we do, whether it be child prevention, whether it be scholarships, whether it be military appreciation. There's just I think there's maybe 65 different things that we do. And so there's always an opportunity to jump in. And we also tell them, look, if there's an area that you're interested in, all you got to do is say so. In our roster book, we have a list of chairmen, and all they have to do is go up to one of those chairmen and say, hey, look, I'd like to be involved with this, and they will find a place for you to go. We're not bashful about asking people to come up and do stuff.
Excellent. David?
Well, I used to always say that I really wouldn't want to be in a club that made me president, but realistically, when people ask, I usually say yes. First 10 years I was in the Exchange Club of Charleston, I think I was the epitome of dead weight. I really didn't do much of anything, and then people started asking me to do things, and I got more involved, and I was able to have a successful Exchange Club career, and that wouldn't have happened if somebody hadn't asked. So I encourage everybody to ask. Sometimes people don't see their own potential. So
excellent advice. Excellent.
And now he's a past national president.
That's correct.
Yes, indeed.
Keeping it lively. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that we haven't touched on?
You know, again, Bob's a 65-year member of this organization, and there's not one member of our club who doesn't respect and appreciate. And Bob is the E.F. Hutton. I don't know if you remember E.F. Hutton, but when Bob speaks, people listen. And that deep voice of his, I mean, it just resonates through a crowd, and Bob gets your attention.
Yes, and very commanding words too. It's a very powerful story, and with Bob's help and Michael and David, we'll be able to get that out hopefully a little bit more to the masses. And if anyone has any questions about this, you want a little bit more information about the speech, or to learn anything more about the Exchange Club, visit our website at www.nationalexchangeclub.org. And I thank all three of you for giving us your time today and sharing this amazing story with our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Kristie.
much.
All right. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of Talk Exchange. It feels really hollow doing this by myself.
You did wonderful.
Thank you.